Day 3 with Russell Brand. See it first on Rumble.
We want to ask you, first of all, about the sort of plan or movement to recast Russia as a kind of terrorist state. Is this something that's been ongoing? How's that changed since the Cold War? How's it changed recently? And was it just one lone congressperson advocating for that, or was it a broader movement?
Well, yeah, earlier you mentioned that there was this particular Democratic congressman named Tom Malinowski who was booted out of the House of Representatives, actually, at the midterm elections and replaced by a Republican who pledged to be even more aggressive and antagonistic toward Russia. That kind of well encapsulates the bipartisan consensus on this topic. But I interviewed Tom Malinowski because he happened to be a sponsor of a resolution in the House calling on the State Department to formally designate Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. So putting Russia into the same category as Syria, Cuba, North Korea, et cetera, Iran, and thereby kind of formally abrogating any semblance of official diplomatic ties that could be forged between the United States and Russia. And you'd think that would have a pretty decisive deleterious impact on brokering some sort of settlement to the war. And far be it for anyone to assume that this was just some sort of rogue plan on the part of one particular Democratic congressman. Last July, the U.S. Senate unanimously assented to a resolution that was championed by Lindsey Graham, so uber hawk of all uber hawks, former chief sort of buddy of John McCain. And by the way, John McCain, for all he was castigated during his lifetime as being this kind of insane hawk and outside the mainstream, believe it or not, in death, John McCain's foreign policy disposition has become strikingly kind of subsumed into just mainstream bipartisan consensus, which I think is an undercovered development of this past year or so vis-a-vis Ukraine. But Lindsey Graham introduced, championed this resolution with a Democratic colleague, Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, and all 100 U.S. senators assented to it. It was enacted by unanimous assent. So everybody from Rand Paul to Josh Hawley to Bernie Sanders to Elizabeth Warren, anyone who you might think might be somewhat on the margins or somewhat more of a dissenting sort of standpoint on this particular topic, they all, whether through overt intentionality or just omission, assented to the enactment of this particular resolution, which would, I think it's fair to say, basically obliterate any hope that the United States could engage diplomatically with Russia in pursuit of some sort of negotiated resolution to the war. Now, that move actually has not been formally taken yet, despite the ardent lobbying of the Ukraine government and Zelensky as well. When Zelensky was in the United States in late December for his vaunted first trip abroad since the war began, or at least the first trip that's been publicly reported that he's taken abroad since the war began, that was one of his lobbying agenda items for that step to be taken to basically nuke, to use a somewhat ominous pun, the diplomatic ties between the United States and Russia. And the United States has not, for whatever reason, formally gone there yet. But the Biden administration tends to be a somewhat lagging indicator in what kind of aggressive steps it's willing to accede to, whereas Congress and the media kind of are at the forefront of kind of banging on for whatever the latest threshold crossing step is.
Stay free. See it first on Rumble.